We had opening statements and 4 witnesses today in the Dee Warner murder trial. I'm Melissa Andrews, a crime and investigative reporter covering the murder trial of Dale Warner. He's accused of killing his wife Dee in 2021 and then welding her inside a fertilizer tank on his property. With its opening statement and the witnesses that were called today, the prosecution is painting a story of a terrible marriage, one without love and intimacy, one where Dee and Dale were just roommates, how that went sour and led to Dale murdering Dee. The prosecution is saying that Dale gave personal information to an employee of his and Dee's, and that employee sent Dee a terrible text message. Now, what family has testified to so far is that the part where this employee said, "You take Xanax," really affected Dee, and they saw her in a way that she'd never really been. They said that she was defeated, she was upset, inconsolable, hysterical, because she is seeing here through this employee that Dale has shared her personal medical information, and by all accounts, Dee was a person who always had her hair and makeup done, who always was dressed very nicely. So she really cared deeply about others' thoughts and opinions of her. So this apparently was the catalyst that drove a big blow up right before her alleged murder by Dale. The prosecution is saying that Dale and Dee often argued over their 15-year or so marriage. This is just one of the text messages that was shared during opening statements. And the defense is saying that, Dee, via the witnesses that they've called so far, that Dee was very dramatic and she was known to exaggerate, and she threatened divorce multiple hundreds of times over the course of the marriage. One of her daughters testified that she did sometimes leave for a day or two every few months during the marriage to kind of reset. So this text and a couple others that were shared are indications of the status of the marriage and how it was going. So one of the things that was shared pretty early on in opening statements by the prosecution is this X-ray image of a tank. And you can see here this red part. You can see the outline of a person's body. And then in this image, you can see the police are cutting open this tank. Below it, you see that same body type figure in a tarp. And then the image over here is what was pulled out of the tank. So the opening statements for the prosecution lasted about an hour. For the defense, it was 8 minutes. Now, the burden of proof is not on the defense. They don't have to give a defense. So we are not expecting to see them call as many witnesses, and their opening statements certainly didn't take nearly as long. But this is what they're saying. They told the jury, you're not here to judge whether Mr. Warner was a good husband or not. You're here to judge whether he's committed the crimes he is charged with. I noticed that at this point, several jurors were taking notes. No one was taking notes. One young woman did start taking notes during the opening statements of the prosecution, but it was pretty far on. But several people were now taking notes when this defense attorney got up. She said, "I simply want you to focus on 3 things. 1, the government timeline for when they claim that she was murdered. The tank cut open, put inside, and moved. The events don't fit the timeline. Number 2, pay attention to what's going on the farm." She talked about how there was always like 7 or so employees around at any given time. There was lots of movement on the farm. So when would Dale have been able to get rid of Dee's body and put it in the tank? And then number 3, they want you to pay attention to how the investigation was conducted. This is Amber Millian. She testified first. She is Dee's daughter. She said that Dee came over her house on Saturday, and she said she was never this mad. She threw up in her bathroom. She was crying hysterically, Dee was, at Amber's home. And she had showed Amber the text message from that employee. She was very, very upset. She was talking about divorce, and she was saying that she was going to sell the business. She was also asked what she was wearing the last time she saw her mom, because when they showed that picture of the tank, The prosecution mentioned that Dee Warner was found duct taped and in her pajamas. Amber, one of the last people to see her, is basically saying she would never leave the house in her pajamas. On cross-examination, Amber said she never saw physical violence. The divorce comments that Dee was saying were not surprising to her because she often brought up divorce. She said her mom did argue and regularly complain about business, and she was not alarmed when she first heard that Dee was missing. This is Kelly Stace. She is an esthetician. She was doing Dee's eyelash extensions. Dee had an appointment that Saturday afternoon. She said Dee was shaking and crying. Dale called during the appointment, and she said she was not going to take the call. On cross-examination, well, she had said that they were pretty close. And then on cross-examination, they said, but you never hung out with her. You guys didn't have a personal relationship. And Ms. Stace agreed with that. Up next is Raquel Bach. She is Dee's daughter, very, very close. You can tell they talked multiple times a day. They had breakfasts together, dinners together. Dee often watched her kids. She also testified that Saturday, April 24th, Dee was a shell of herself. She was unwell. She said she was crying. She said the same things about the divorce and the trucking company. She also said that she drove by the house that night around 10:30 and thought it was odd that the lights were on in the living room. That was not typical. And then her Hummer was parked behind the house, which was, it was brought up later. So Sunday morning, she said she woke up, she went to her mom's house around 8:30 or 9. She didn't see her mom, began making breakfast. And she texted her mom to see what she was doing, and she got no reply. So they ate breakfast. They kind of walked around a little to see if anyone was there, but then they went home, and she called Dee again, no answer. So she went over to the office, which is on Dee's property. She didn't see anything there, starts contacting siblings and Dee's secretary to see if anyone's heard from her. Drove to Dee's brother's Greg's farm to see if she was there. No one was there. Went to another property in Onstead. So then she went back to her mom's house. She said Dale called her when she was over at Greg's farm and asked if she'd talked to Dee because Stephanie called saying they were looking for her. Dale told Amber, allegedly, that Dee had been sleeping on the couch the last time he saw her at 6 a.m. And then she said that Dale asked if she knew that Dee had a secret phone and had left her ring and been taking pills. And then he said, quote, everything I've worked for is gone. Dale did admit that they were fighting and that during this fight the previous night he had read her some vows, marital vows. She said that Dale left, she stayed a little while longer and then dropped the kids off at the friend's house. And she told Dale that she'd wanted to call some hospitals, look at phone records and call the police. She did end up calling the police that day. On cross-examination, she was asked, have you personally ever observed your mom yelling? And she said, yes, my mom was a yeller. She admitted she would leave frequently, commonly said she wanted a divorce. And she just considered it talk. She said that she did suffer from chronic migraines. She saw no stains or marks on the couch or carpet at her mom's house. And she had looked at some surveillance videos with her brother. And again, on redirect, she said something was different this time. Dee was almost calm about this decision to divorce again. The last witness of the day is Amy Alexander. So she has had a long-term relationship with Dale's brother, Billy, and is good friends with Dee. Their kids were very close, Dee and Dale's daughter. She also testified about the statements Dee said that day, and she was the one who took Lena that night when Dale was going to hear from Dee about this divorce and the selling of the business. On cross-examination, she was asked about Dee not wanting to work as much. She said that, yes, that's true. She wanted to spend more time with her grandchildren. And it came up that, her belief was that sometimes you have to take what Dee said with a grain of salt. And sometimes, yes, she would leave. Court adjourned early at 3 o'clock because they said it was a natural break. I did hear that we're going to hear from another one of Dee's children on the stand tomorrow, but the court has not given a list of witnesses, given us a list, or from what I've heard, been given a list of the day's witnesses.